Hey, hi. So welcome. I'm so glad that you are here today. We're doing the we're doing Sacramento International Film Festival, the California Film Foundation, Screenwriters Meetup Group. But we're doing something really special today. We have a very special guest. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. So before we get to our writers group, we're going to be talking to this amazing person. But I want to remind everybody who is out there watching right now and today that the Sacramento International Film Festival deadlines are coming up. So if you've got a film that you want to submit, the final deadline is March 31st. And I totally suggest you get on that. This film festival is 26 years old. And there are so many components to it, and we've had amazing films premiere and amazing guests. So March 31st, we also have the American Screenwriting Conference component, the screenwriting competition of that coming up. The deadline has been extended to April 19th. So whether you have a short or a feature or even a student film, which we've added that category this year. So actually the K through 12, well, okay, maybe K is not right, but 5th through 12th. Think about it, get on it, April 19th, check it out. So now, without further ado, let me introduce this amazing person. His name is Jazmen Darnell Brown. He is a young man. You're going to be so inspired by this guy. So he had no background in filmmaking. He said, and I think he said this, this is my version anyway, I want to be in Hollywood. I want to be in the filmmaking business. And he came out here not knowing a soul, and he worked his tail off. He started with a feature that was picked up, or he wrote a feature. I believe he's going to tell us about this. That was picked up and produced. Then he went into the writing room. He worked his butt off, got into a writer's room as an assistant, learned the ropes, and then became a staff writer on a bunch of shows. And we're going to hear more about that. So he entered a short film that he produced called Bloom. We're going to take a look at that in just a minute, into the Sacramento International Film Festival. And that's how we got a line on Jazmen. So without further ado, please welcome our special guest, Jazmen Darnell Brown. If I had applause right now, I would thought you'd be here. Woo! You know what?
Thank you. You're doing too much of a good job. You're doing too much of a good job hyping me up, Dawn. I feel nervous now.
Oh, no, totally, man. Don't even, yeah. No, in fact, I didn't even introduce myself. So I know there are people out there who don't know me. My name is Dawn Spinella. I am a working writer. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm an educator, and I'm passionate about all of them. And a lot of folks have been coming to my screenwriting group for years now. And I appreciate that. But I want to talk to Jazmen. So, Jazmen, after I spoke with you the other night, I reached out to a friend of mine who I know from UCLA. I said, you got to meet this guy. He's awesome. And I sent her your link, and I heard back from her, and she said, oh yeah, he's on my committee at the WGA.
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Michelle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's a small world.
Good people. It is. It's tiny, especially in Black Hollywood. It's like this big. So. Right.
And Michelle, man, she's a powerhouse. So if you're going to know Michelle, she's awesome. She's really cool. So, okay. Before we hit your film, because that's awesome. I loved it. This short.
Thank you.
Tell us just a quick bit about yourself. Like, you've got the whole writing background, and then you went into producing. Tell me what, and first of all, Darnell, I do have one question. I mean, Jazmen, this is most important. I know, right? Is there anything that I can't ask you about? Like, what's forbidden?
No, I'm pretty open. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about the business, there's behind the scenes things that I can't talk about because I want to work. But other than that, I mean, I really don't have much to hide. So unless Michelle said some bad stuff about me, if Michelle said some bad stuff about me, then those are off limits. But
I don't think it was bad. I'm just saying. All right. So give us a little background about you, Jazmen.
So I spent a lot of my early childhood in Dothan, Alabama. Back then, I watched TV all the time. But the thing that kind of messed me up was I was a young kid watching TV and nobody looked like me. So I didn't know anything about race relations. My parents didn't really explain things to me. And so I kind of had a thing. I was like, I feel like something's wrong with me because nobody that I'm watching on TV who are doing all these fun adventures look like me. So that kind of messed me up a little bit. I left Alabama and, I went to Michigan and I learned a little bit more about how things were. But then I just kind of recognized like how important the media is and how we see ourselves. So when I went to college, I went to Florida State University. I enrolled in a Spike Lee class. I just did it on a whim because to me, TV and movies, they were just like entertainment. And then that Spike Lee class, I kind of learned like, okay, TV, movies, this can change hearts, it can change minds. It has so much power. And so after that, I just realized that this was something that I needed to get into. I came out, I went back home to Michigan. And if you want me to start out talking about the film and all that stuff, I can now, or we can wait. But basically, that was my journey into why I wanted to get involved in TV and film. It really came from my early childhood and what I learned from that Spike Lee class.
That's awesome. Have you considered, like, do you have any specific goals that you want to reach in this business? And do you feel like you're making a difference?
Well, I think when I first came into the business, sorry.
Jazmen,
yeah.
Why do I feel like Larry King right now? What's going on? This is okay, anyway.
Because you're that Don.
Right. You know what? In the comment box, somebody said you can't ask somebody on air what you can't ask about. I'm like, that's the whole point, man. Anyway, I feel like Larry King. Have you made a difference? What do you want to do? How are you going to change it, Jazmen?
I mean, I feel like things have already changed is the thing. When I started in this business, I think it was like 10 years ago, the only Black movies they were making were like Tyler Perry movies and Big Mama's House. And there was like, nothing on network television as far as, starring people of color, and things have changed a lot. So when I came in, things were kind of dour, but things are a lot more better now. And there are a lot more opportunities. Yeah. I still think there's a little bit of ways to go, but some of the shows that I worked on, Saints and Sinners and whatnot, I kind of got this bug where I felt like I wanted to do more. And so that's why I ended up doing the short, was because I wanted to learn the behind the scenes. On the show Saints and Sinners, I went from an assistant to a producer. So I was on set, I was having meetings with locations, talking to the actors, doing all of that. But I never fully understood how the money worked, right? And so I felt like doing my own short was like a great way to kind of like learn the ins and outs, the stuff that I wasn't learning while I was there. So,
no, that's awesome, and that money is so important. That it changes. That's the game changer, right?
I had somebody come up to me that was working on the short, and they asked me they needed to get tables and chairs for set. And the tables and chairs, I think, were going to cost like $2,000 or something crazy like that. And I was like, that's insane. Right? This is a low budget short. And you want to spend like a fraction of our budget on just tables and chairs. Like, that's how crazy stuff is when you're like doing this stuff. So,
right. So were you a line producer, creative producer, or did you kind of do it all on that short?
So the short, I was the executive producer. It was a script that I found on Stage 32. Okay. It appealed to me because it had to do with this like young boy who had a goal. And when I read it, I was just like, when I get into producing, this is the first thing I want to do. Reached out to the guy. He said I could do it. And then I spent like a year or so just kind of getting all the pieces together. So, I managed the script. I got the money. I hired the directors. Me and my partner, Rashad Mubarak, we got the talent, Skyland Brooks. He's a notable name from like the Get Down and Empire and stuff like that. We pretty much, me and him, put everything together. So it was kind of a passion project, if you will. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's interesting. I think everybody who's watching is going to go over to Stage 32 now and post a script. And if you're not already thinking about it, I hope I planted the seed, because Jazmen might find it next time.
It's a good thing they paid me before I said that too. So,
so how many scripts did you read before you like decided that was the one?
Well, I wasn't reading for scripts to do. I was, it was before I got my first job, and I had this graveyard shift. I was a vault manager. I literally spent all night in this vault just like contemplating how much I hated my life because I wasn't writing for a living. And I would just go on stage 32 and just like read different stuff because I just wanted to stay in tune. So I kind of came across it on a whim.
Is that how you kind of started training yourself to write? By reading?
Well, definitely. Reading a lot, watching a lot of movies, watching a lot of TV, even movies that, are probably not the best. You learn from those, TV shows that you're like, okay, I feel like they kind of jumped the shark here, or I would have done things a different way. You can learn pretty much from everything. So I pretty much just try to stay tuned. I read a lot. I watch a lot of TV, watch a lot of movies, just try to learn from everywhere. A lot of podcasts. Podcasts are a great way, things like this. So yeah, I feel like I learned from everywhere, basically.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So I want to show Bloom. Are we set up, Jordan? Are we ready to roll on that? So then we can come back and talk about it some more. And here's some more. And folks, anybody who's watching, if you want to post a question, let me know. I'm keeping my eye on that. Jazmen, I think, will probably answer almost anything that we ask him, as long as, he didn't. Feel free to ask. I am waiting to hear from Jordan. Are we good to roll on that film?
You really want to go in there? Just show your face. Come back next week. Maybe they'll let you up. Look, if the vibe ain't right, just do like I said. Plant the seed.
Still finna catch me a body like a sarcophagus. Dicing and slicing suckers up. I'm on that barber shit. Hit your baby moms from the back and call my partner in. My homies one thing, that's the parliament. And I'm the best on this stage, that ain't no argument. Hit you with the clip, then split. Watch you fall and I'll drag you to the end of the stage and toss you off of it. And let's go, man, this is my house.
You got your whole crowd boasting you up. These battles rigged, man. I want my money back. What?
You think my battle's staged? You want to take the bread you gave me back? I got that right?
Nah, I'm good.
But I'm not good. Because now word is finna spread that I'm not a fair person. And that costs me money. Now how you suggest I get that bread back, fam? All right, now that we good, let's set this stage back on fire. Up next is my man's Kid Ruckus and...
Me. I got next.
Hey, young, who little brother is this? Don't this fool got like after school activities to partake in this?
I'm D-Block. Like, I don't want to battle Kid Ruckus. Like, I want you.
Baby, come get this money from this clown.
Darnell? Are you sure you want to do this? It's your funeral.
Little homie Slick think he the man. He saved up a year's worth of lunch money just for me. All right, we clocking this a minute flat, cause ain't nobody finna be stuck up here with Geek is the New Black. Let's go.
Hey, here we go. Hey, here we go. Hey.
Rolled up in my spot with his chest out. I will count my 45, blow your chest out. Parents on the lookout, young boy missing. Chances he alive? Nah, suicide mission. Stick you for your shoes, crying to your mama. Find me in her room, hi, I'm your new father. My woes is surrounding you. Focus, my girls, they clowning you. No jizz, my foes, they bound to lose. No wins, my bars, they drowning you. Hold this. This is life. a lesson, a luger to loosen your hand, loyalty and lavishness. But I grew up with the savages, raised with no advantages. I will stomp you in a hole until your soul is wearing bandages. D-Block? Little homie, let me do you a favor. I'll give you a head start. Head home for me. Cause if this battle was drugs, you should have just said no to me. What you waiting for? Crowd ain't gonna save you.
The world is like a jungle and loves the undetectable virus running its way through it. But it's manageable. I risk the inevitable fumble in my heart to pursue it. Can you view it? The void you leave when you graduate? Who cares if this emasculates me? I'll bear the indignity for you, my lady. I loved you in that yellow dress you used to wear. With your mellow, messy bun up there. What about in drama class when you sunk our boat? I swear, girl, we could play Titanic. I'll be your Jack, you could be my Rose. I'm battling through friends and foes, cons and pros. Can she really be my girl? Only time will know. Act now or pay later, graduation is on the road. I'm always mixing up my words because when you're around, I'm out of those. I can't promise that we'll stick, we'll bond, or we'll click together. But what's love without danger, stranger? But I can't promise you. I can treat you better.
You're an idiot. Can't believe how stupid you really are. You could have gotten us both killed.
Okay, I should listen to you more often.
Yeah, well, your timing is something else.
Not tonight, Janet. I was straight. I was wrong.
You got all your stuff taken. You didn't get her address, her number. What do you mean you're straight?
Planted the seed.
Deep in the soil, many won't see it. That's what happens when you plant a seed. Give it some water, just by the sun rays. Yeah, it looks a little green. It twists and it toils, they'll just ignore you. But that's when it's breaking free. They didn't know you, and they couldn't see you. But now we can see the leaves.
That's awesome. That's so good. I think I love it for the second time. I can see why you were so attracted to it.
Yeah, it started with the script. The script was surprising, and even more so, it was something that could be done in one location. So,
Right.
but yeah, it started with the script.
So, question, I know everybody's wanting to know: did the writer also write the raps? Did he write the lyrics?
He wrote most of them.
Mm-hmm.
We did have some, we call them lyric consultants. We did have a couple rappers come in and work on them. So they would do the rap, and then we would send it back to JP, our writer, and then he would, change what he saw to make it fit the character. And then one of the actors wrote his own raps because he's a rapper. The light skin, we call him the light skin the evil Chris Brown, the evil Chris Brown at the beginning. He wrote his own raps. His name is Terrell Hill.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was awesome. Love it. I see that there's some questions coming in. I'm going to check that out in just a minute. But tell me, so a couple of things that I love about this is there doesn't seem to be this inherent danger. You know, there's no weapons. It's not life threatening, except you can get your butt kicked, right? And that's, pretty bad. But you guys did such a good job of escalating the tension and creating a sense of danger. Not so much like life danger. Yeah, he's going to take his stuff. You might get your butt kicked, but like an emotional danger. And you're way out of your league. And I thought, because I'm waiting for this to see where it's going to go, because, I'm like, okay, how dangerous can this place be? I mean, he's going to out rap somebody, but I loved the heart. I loved how they elevated that and escalated the danger and wrapped it around the heart of the matter, especially for this young man. Was that one of the things that was in the first or the draft that you read?
Definitely. For the most part, what you saw was in the first draft. We just made a few small changes. The best friend, her name is Janet. It used to be Jeff. We made it Janet, so there'd be a weird love triangle there. But even in the script, the main character, when you read it in the script, when he goes into that club, it's described as the people are towering over him. So even in the script, there was that danger there. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, Skyland, the actor, is 6 feet tall, so we couldn't really have anybody towering over him. But we still, like you said, had to give that sense of danger there, and we had to make it so that you can tell this is not this kid's element. He's very in over his head. So
right. And that's so important, because you can create that feeling in a script as a writer. And that's part of our job, is to create that sense and not just say, well, everybody's bigger than him and he goes in and he's totally out of place. It's to create that feeling, and the sense of it. And I loved, and you do that with, the description and dialogue, and the gal who took his money, she said, okay, it's your funeral. I'm like, yes. That's a good call, right? Yeah, that creates another level of danger. So I want to do this thing. I've started thinking, what is one of my favorite lines from something I just saw? All right. Do you have a favorite line from this?
I have a couple. The line that I love is plant the seed, because it kind of brings everything around. It ties into the whole concept of bloom. And then it can just relate to so many different things in your life, just planting the seed and having faith in something. So that's what sticks out to me more than anything.
And that was the theme anyway. But yeah, very good. I really liked what's love without danger. And I know we said something else, but I'm like, ooh, that's deep. All right. I'm going to look here and pull up some questions. I know that we've got something for you. So we have 2 questions for Jazmen. What was the backstory on them giving you responsibility from assistant to screenwriter on the show? As someone who was aspiring to get into the entertainment industry, what's some advice you would give for working your way up? Great question.
Is her name Sarah? Is that how you say it, Sarah?
Sarah E. Mm-hmm.
Sarah E. Sorry about that. My experience is different than normal. So I'll give you how it was for me and then how it usually is. So when I got my first job as an assistant, it was for a non-union low budget show, right? And it basically means there wasn't enough people that should have been there. And so everybody was taking on more responsibilities than they usually would. But also it was their first show that they had ever done. They had never done anything like this. The network, the execs, they always license shows. This was the first time they were doing it on their own. So I was the writer's assistant, just there to take notes, right? And there was such a big blow up between everybody, because they're trying to figure out what the show is and how it looks and where it's going to go, that the executives ended up firing the writers and then coming into the room to rewrite the show themselves. So
the executives came in to rewrite the show. Wow.
Yeah. But at this point, you know, I had been in LA for a while. I had placed in some competitions. I had placed in some fellowships. I had been writing the whole time. I already had my feature. And being the assistant, you get to observe everything, right? And so I knew what the writers were trying to do, and I knew what the executives didn't like. And so while I was in the room and the executives, along with the showrunner, they were trying to figure out, you know, redo this thing, I had both perspectives. And so I just started pitching because there was no one else in the room. And you know, I could tell they could use the help, and they started liking my pitches. I knew what they needed. They wanted a soap, but they didn't want to call it a soap. And I had, you know, watched Empire, Graves, like those were my shows. Mm-hmm. So when I started pitching, they started liking my ideas. And then they were like, well, hey, would you like to write a script? You know, thinking that they're going to, you know, probably have to redo it because I'm an assistant. Again, I knew what they wanted. And you're not supposed to do this as when you work on staff, but I got a 2-page outline. I redid my outline, right? And I made it work for what I thought the show should be. And when you're on a regular show, that's the first way to get fired. Don't ever do that. But this was an extreme circumstance. I turned in the script. They liked it. They said that this is what they were looking for. And when you watch the show, my episode is the one where things kind of like take a turn. Like the pacing of the show now fits what I had in my script. Before then, it was trying to figure it out. But when you get to my episode, it's like, okay, this is what the show should be. So then they went to Atlanta to film the show. But because I was the assistant, you know, I knew how old this character was, how many episodes this character is. Like, I had all the information on the show in the back of my head. And so they were calling me all the time. And they got to the point where they were just like, you know what, it's just easier to have Jazmen on set if we have to call him 20 times a day. So they flew me out to Atlanta. And so I was on set helping them. And things, you know, the scripts, everything was still getting figured out. Everyone was still trying to figure out what the show was. So again, that's not normal, but because it was a non-union show, I got to have that experience. Mm-hmm. And so I was on set, I was talking to actors, like, this is where the show is going, and this is where your character is going. Props team, I had to, you know, sit with them before every day, really, just to kind of set up what props are needed for the next day. Because again, it's low budget. So on a usual show, you have 2 teams. This team is setting up what's in this episode. The next team is setting up what's in the next episode. They don't have that. So I was just helping all around. And then when they came back for the second season, they were like, you know, we need Jazmen. He knows the show in and out. And so they brought me back and they gave me the official title as associate producer. So that's what happened for me. On a normal show, you're just in the room, taking notes, doing what you can. But because I was on a non-union show, I had that unique experience that helped me later when I became a staff writer. Because when I became a staff writer, I was like, oh, send me the set. You know, I know what to do on set. I know how to talk to actors. I know what to do in a meeting. So because I had that background, I was well prepared when I did get the opportunity.
What was the non-union show that you started with? What was that one?
It was called Saints and Sinners.
Okay. Okay.
And I love those people. I don't see them anymore, but I love those people to this day because they gave me my first shot. I mean, before then, I had spent years trying to get a job, and they gave me my first one, and that helped me weave my way into other things. So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It definitely, that it sounds like you had a really great opportunity come up, and you knew how to handle it, but you were also very prepared.
Yeah,
you'd been working toward and practicing your writing, and you know, you showed up and you were ready.
Yeah. And I was hungry. I was hungry. I was like, I'll stay up all night, you know, reworking the script. I mean, you know, whatever I got to do to make it. At that point, I was just willing to do anything. So
how did you end up as an assistant in the first place?
That, I would say the log line to my career is it's all about relationships. Mm-hmm. I was in LA for like years trying to get anything, and I got denied even for like office PA stuff, like everything. I could not get a job to save my life. And then I had a friend on a show, I think she was on Empire, and she said like, hey, Jazmen, you know a lot of people out here. Why don't you work your relationships? Because if you work your relationships, you'll probably be able to get somewhere. And so then I was like, oh, that's right. So then I started doing, instead of writing, I was still writing, but I focused more on taking meetings with people, taking lunches with people, catching up with people. And then one day on Facebook, a guy who I met once at a film festival, we were both volunteers, he posted on his Facebook that their show was looking for an assistant. So I was like, hey, remember me? Can I apply? And he was like, sure. So I go into the interview and he's the number 2 person on the show.
Oh my gosh.
And so I just laid it all out. I'm like, listen, I have no kids. I have no wife. No one loves me. I'll sleep here. I'll do whatever I need to do. Just please give me this job. I'm so hungry, like, please. And so they ended up giving me, and it was only a 2-week gig because they do things differently there. But I wanted to focus on it. So I quit my other job just so that I could focus and do the best that I could. They ended up keeping me on as a script coordinator throughout production, which extended another 4 weeks. And then after that, you know, as a script coordinator, you're just focused on the script. You're not really doing much. But, you know, anywhere I would go, I would walk really fast so everyone would think I had something important to do. and then I would just do little stuff. I would like take out the trash. I would go to the writers. Hey, you thirsty? You want a Coke? You know, go to the room. There's no Coke there. So I have to go to the gas station, get a Coke, bring it back to the writers so that they appreciate me. And so people saw how much I wanted it. And then one day the network execs, they were like, hey, you know, this show is ending, but we got another show coming up. Do you want to come and be the writer assistant on that? So that's kind of how it transitioned. But it was really just from me working my relationships and you know, once I got in the door again, making sure that I did whatever I had to do to stay. So
that is super great advice and so insightful, because that enthusiasm and like being there, you can't beat it. You really can't. And just showing them that you're willing to do the work and put the time in and make the effort, and people remember that. So I have always detested networking. It's always like this cringe thing, right? Because I'm so bad at small talk. I really am. I don't know if you are, if like you might be that natural who's got, you know, the gift of gab and can talk to anybody about anything. But for people like, say, me, and I know there are others out there who don't feel like networking is their strong suit, how would you say kill that beast?
I would say don't look at it as networking, looking at it as making relationships and building friendships. I go to a networking meeting, I meet a person, we exchange cards. You know, I don't know anything about him. He doesn't know anything about me. You know, like relationships like that aren't really much of anything.
Right.
But like, you know, having coffee with somebody, learning about what their life is, you know, helping them. You know, I know a lot of people who are like looking for this and looking for that. And I'm like, hey, if anything I can do to help you with this job, here you go. So it's not like, I feel like networking has this kind of like skeezy salesman thing where you're just like out here trying to get whatever you can from people. It's not about that. It's about making friendships, making relationships, trying to be as helpful to other people as you can, because one day they're going to repay the favor, hopefully. So yeah, just look at it in terms of just building friendships, because it's not really the whole networking card thing that everybody says it is. So
yeah, that's such good advice. Again, I agree. So let me ask you: was Bloom a low budget SAG?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And when you're working, because I've not worked non-union television before, what is that? How is that different? Like, what's the deal? How does it work? Tell me about that.
I mean, it depends on who you work for. Everyone has a different way of doing things. I've been fortunate enough to be on, you know, shows with real budgets. They're still not great budgets, but they're real budgets compared to the stuff that I was doing before. It's very run and gun, right? One of the shows that I worked on, you know, they would shoot like 40, 50 pages a day, right?
Holy moly.
Just trying to, because they don't have the money to go for months and months and months. So they have to shoot the whole season in like 3 weeks. So, and again, there's not enough people staff. So everyone is taking 2 or 3 jobs. You're not being paid as much as you should be paid.
Sure.
So yeah, it's kind of a grunt work type of deal, but the thing about it is, for people who are trying to get their way into the business, it's great experience, because after the experience that I had on those shows, I felt like I could go anywhere and accomplish anything. And even when I got on the Quad, I was a writer assistant on the Quad who got a freelance script. It was because I came in as a writer assistant. I was like, this is all you need me to do? You just need me to take notes. That's it. That's all. Oh, fine. Right. I mean, I can do that all day. And I did it all day. And they were like, you're great at this. I was like, well, this is the only thing I'm doing. So They're not going to be the most luxurious things. They're not going to pay all that well, and you are going to have to deal with a lot of things. But if you can get through it, it is a really good experience.
Yeah, you build that background and that experience, and like you said, it probably leads to the next and the next and the next thing. I know Ed's got a question here. I don't quite understand it. Let's see if you can help me understand this. Ed asks, how do you balance using non-union work to build experience versus trying to follow union guidelines? I mean, you're not really following union guidelines on your non-union job, except that, are you using SAG talent though on a non-union?
Yeah, the non-union shows, they did use SAG talent
Because they probably shot in right to work states, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But also, there are deals that you can work with SAG. I know of a show, I'm not going to say, but one show tried to make themselves a new media project so that they could, have certain ways to pay the actors. And then later SAG team was like, no, you're a real show. We're going to change this. So there's different types of deals that you can work out with SAG. But yeah, it was non-union as far as writers go, because I'm a writer. So, in those shows, you're not getting paid as much as you would be paid on regular shows. And you definitely don't get those royalties, which kind of sucks. So
Yeah. Okay, here's another question. Do you think it's worth it to invest in a film school education? Why or why not?
I think it depends. The thing about film school, everybody says, is that it's really about the relationships you make in film school. So, those people, I know people who went to film school and they got their jobs because of the people that they met in film school and where they're at. But, it's such a large expense. If you don't have it, I think you can definitely get by without it. I would say use that money, make your own films, learn your own thing, and just get out there and make relationships, because that's really is going to help you get to where you need to go. If you have the money, I did think about film school just because I was like, it'd be nice to have like 2 years where I can just focus on writing or just focus on making films. But I don't think it's a necessity. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's great. Just exactly what you said. So tell me, what is there a particular genre of storytelling that you're really drawn to?
Well, the jobs that I've been hired for are like nighttime soaps, right? Because you get to just think of all this crazy stuff with your kid. Everyone's always trying to, stab somebody in the back or do something crazy. You can just like let your mind run wild with all these horrible things people can do to each other. So that's been fun. But as far as my own personal writing, as you can see with Bloom, I'm really gravitate towards young adult stories, especially young adults of color. So a lot of my stuff kind of focuses on that world. And I try to have fun. I say my brand is like Big Kids, Big Heart, right? It's fun and imaginative, but it's also emotional, because you got to have those emotional stakes to make people care about it. So
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Excuse me. Okay. So what is next for you as a producer or a writer?
Well, unfortunately, when I was on the Quad, I was a writer's assistant who got a freelance episode, and then the head writer became a showrunner on Ambitions, and so he gave me my first staff writing position on Ambitions. Unfortunately, Ambitions got canceled right before the pandemic hit. Yeah. So I'm with the rest of the people in LA just looking for that next job. I do have some opportunities coming up that I think are going to work out. But other than that, I'm just taking my time to kind of do more my own thing. I do have a couple projects that I'm pitching. And there's a documentary that I'm working on that I would like to produce sometime this year about I call him the first social media boxer. His name is Omar Henry, and he has a pretty fascinating story where he basically he was a fighter. He was a very talented fighter, but because he was a blue chip, he wasn't a name. He couldn't get any fights, because if you fought him and lost, you lost to a no name. If you beat him, you beat a no name. So no one wanted to fight him. So he ended up creating a presence for himself using social media and became one of the most popular boxers during that time period. And that helped him make his career. But it also dampened his career and made it so that he had to find another way to kind of make his dreams come true. So I'm working on a documentary about that, and you know, again, just taking this pandemic time to just work on my own stuff and hone my writing skills. So.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So when was this guy boxing or fighting? When did he start this media?
This was in the early days of social media. So this was around 2009, 2010. Okay. The crazy thing about it is he actually passed away in 2013, right when he got his career back on track. It was the biggest fight of his life. It was going to be televised. If he won, he'd be on the path to the belt. 3 days before the fight, he found out he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and then went from fighting to the belt to literally fighting for his life. And then he ended up passing away 3 months later. But the poetic thing is, after his death, he was awarded the first ever honorary championship belt from UBF for the presence that he had on social media and the impact that he had on his fans. So the turnaround is that he wanted to go into the Hall of Fame. He wanted to be this Hall of Fame fighter, and in death, he kind of achieved that goal. So
that's amazing. Yeah, you have quite a story there.
Yeah, and we're working with we're working on getting the rights. We're working with his family, talk to his trainer, talk to the people in his life. It's been something that I've been working on for a while. So I'm just hoping that we can get all the pieces in place to kind of get it done. So
that's fabulous, very exciting. So I just want to check with Jordan and see if our writer is in the house. Jordan, can you let me know if Yaman is here? And then we'll find out where we're at time-wise. Oh, and here's another question. While we're waiting for Jordan's answer, what are some college clubs or activities or habits in general that you'd recommend for writing?
I mean, I'm learning more about your writers group, but I would say writers group was the #1 best thing I did when I got to LA, because I was in 2 or 3 writers group. We met every week. We, exchanged information. It made me accountable, right? Because I have to turn in pages, or else people are gonna be looking at me funny. And you have to pitch. You have to give notes. And it's interesting, when I first, when I got my job in Ambitions, I remember us being at that table and we were giving notes on one of the script and doing pitching on one of the script, and it was the same exact experience that I had in the writers group. And so I felt like, oh, this is like second nature to me. I can do this no problem. So I would say definitely getting involved in writers group, but anything that, just keeps you in tune, keeps you writing, keeps you, watching TV, watching movies, anything that just kind of keeps you in the industry, I think would be good. So.
What was your biggest challenge with writing? I know that, was it structure? Was it character development? Was it just word on the page? Did you have a problem at all with any of it?
No, that's perfect. What are you talking about?
Perfect.
When I first started learning, structure was really easy for me. So that's what I kind of leaned on, which has really helped in TV. I would say dialogue and character is the thing that I needed to focus on more than anything. Also, brevity, right? Because I also like to write fiction, and with fiction, you're just like writing this happens and that happens and that happens, and you only have so much room. So those were the 3 things that I kind of need to focus on, and I still kind of focus on to this day. I still go back and read Robert McKee's dialogue, and whatever I can to kind of hold my skills, because it's a lifelong learning process.
Absolutely. So when you were in your writers groups, what was the most advantageous aspect of that, and how did they run them? Because I know how we run ours, and I've been called very strict. I've been called something like very strict, but because I tell my writers that when they're getting notes, they don't get to talk; they just need to listen, because they need to hear things. What kind of your experiences? Just so these writers know.
That was probably, one, you need somebody like that, because sometimes writers groups fall apart and they don't have that person that's keeping it together. And I started a writers group that I left, and thank God the people there were like you, Dawn, and they're like, we're doing this no matter if Jazmen's here or not. I would say the most advantageous thing is hearing notes, right? Because like you said, you learn you do kind of take it personal. You kind of have to figure out a way to take the personal out of it, and you just have to sit there and listen. Because sometimes I would get a note that I didn't understand, but I would write it down anyway. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, this is what they were talking about, right? And I'm so glad that I had it written down, or else, I would have missed it. So, learning how to take notes, learning how to take criticism, learning how to rewrite, and just not being so precious with your material, because it can be scary sometimes at first, but so you just got to put it out there, and then whatever happens with it, and then you go back and you rewrite it. That's the process. So if it sucks, but you'll get another shot. So
yes, that's such good advice. And I know I constantly have to check myself for being precious with my stuff, and I think being precious can really hold you back from making achievements. From getting things done, from just taking risks and letting people say what they need to say. I agree with all of that. So, okay, here's another question. And Jordan, I'm just curious, I'm going to ask again if Yaman has arrived yet. But this Facebook guest, there's Yaman. Hi. Yaman, 1 second, let me ask this question. And so what can teens or young adults do now to get into the industry? And I'm not sure if that means get into the industry as an actor, just a writer, like in what capacity. It's just get into the industry. But
yeah, I think it just depends on what you want to go into. But I would say that the two things to focus on are experience. If you want to write right now, right, you don't need to be in LA to write. You don't need to be in Atlanta. You can do that from anywhere. But this, whatever you want to do, just if you want to do filmmaking, get a camera, experience, use your cell phone. If you want to do acting, I know there's clubhouse plays that are going on. Just do anything you can do to hone your skills. I would also say, it's kind of hard with this pandemic era to network or build relationships, but you can always reach out to people and see if they can do Zoom meetings. I know people who have gotten jobs just reaching out to somebody and doing a Zoom meeting, wanted to pick their brain, and then all of a sudden the person likes them and they get opportunities. So I think those are the two things: are just hone your craft, focus on your craft, and just meet people. So
again, excellent advice. Great. So Jazmen, Yaman has generously provided a few pages for us. Yaman, we're going to be able to get through about 3.5 pages today. But I think that will allow you to hear some basic informative information, because when I scanned your pages, I could see right away some of the notes I would give you just by looking at the page. And that will inform how you go back and start working on your rewrite, so that when you bring it back to read, as we figure out how we're doing this writers group virtually, we can get through more of it. But this is a very personal story for Yaman. And Jazmen, are you going to stick around? Do you have another 40 minutes, or do you need to run?
I'll stick around.
Really?
Yeah, it should be fun.
Oh my gosh,
I don't know how much notes I'm gonna be able to give though, since I'm like, I don't know how this works, but I'll do my best. So
you are just going to listen. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Thank you, Jazmen. Yaman, why don't you give us a quick, two sentence log line? We talked about log lines last time we met. I don't know if you've actually finished writing that, but give us an idea of what this story is about, just so we all know.
So yes, it's stories about my father, who was working for the Burmese government on a container ship. He was a captain on a container ship back right after the Vietnam War ended. And he was on his way to Hong Kong and picked up a boatload of Vietnamese refugees against his government's wishes. Took them to Hong Kong and got in a lot of trouble when he got back. My mom and family, we were all arrested, and it kind of triggered our escape from Burma to the United States. And it's the story of the struggles that my dad went through, in particular, going from a pretty well-established family, a good home, a good job back in Burma, to coming to the United States from this decision that he made to save the Vietnamese refugees, and his story. So that's pretty much
okay. Good. So we're going to go over these pages real quick. Let's see. Who are my readers? I've got somebody who's reading the narrative, the narration. That's Angelique. Thank you, Angelique. And Eric is reading Donald, right? Hi, Eric. Right. And Sarah E., can you read Matilda?
Yes.
Did that work for you? Good. And then I think that just leaves Reggie. And oh gosh. See, this looks like I'm casting myself. I'm just going to read Reggie. And I say that, so we're going to read through this real quick. I'll take a few notes and then we'll discuss it. All right?
Hey, Don.
Yes?
Hey, it is pronounced Matilda. It's not Mathita because I see Mathita.
Oh, Yaman, how is that pronounced?
It's Mathita.
It is Mathita.
Okay.
I totally, my mind saw one thing and yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And Angelique, we are ready whenever you are.
Okay. Fade in, exterior, behind the McIntosh home on the Inya Lake, afternoon. The British Burma flag with its deep red, white, and blue stripes, emblazoned with the yellow and green peacock emblem, drifts lazily against a blue and white sky. The flagpole is located behind a large blue Victorian-style house. The air is hot, thick, and heavy as sunlight pushes through the moist tropical heat to contrast sharply with the deep shade provided by lush, intensely green foliage. Unintelligible youth, excited voices and laughter, interspersed with an older, harried female voice, can be heard inside the walls of the massive home. Clattering of footsteps, and then the back door slams open. Two boys come tumbling out wearing only swim trunks and towels, streaming behind them like capes.
Hurry up, Mathita, or you'll be the rotten egg.
Slow down, little rascal. You need a grown-up with you. Wait, I say. An irate Mathilda, one of the 4 nannies at the McIntosh residence, appears carrying a white-brimmed hat and book. She fumbles to close the door behind her, causing the book to fall. Letters from between its pages spill across the porch. Bugger it. She takes a deep breath, pauses, sighs, and kneels to collect the spilled items.
I heard that.
The boys are the 2 older sons of an educated upper-middle-class family living in Rangoon, British colonized Burma in the 1940s. Donald McIntosh, 10, is the smaller of the 2 boys. He is handsome, buoyant, and oozes mischief. Running ahead of him is his more reserved brother, Reggie McIntosh, 13, tall and lanky, with a head shaved bald. The 2 race across the lush green grass towards Inya Lake and arrive at the edge of the water. First Reggie, then Donald, who is still laughing as he bends, resting his hands on his knees to catch his breath.
Well, some things haven't changed. You still know how to wind up the help, little brother.
Only the birds know Reggie.
Reggie lets out a short laugh and throws a pebble into the lake toward a small island that sits about 800 meters away. Donald follows suit.
Birds? And when did you start using that word?
He reaches out a hand to ruffle Donald's hair, which Donald tries to simultaneously bat at and duck away from.
Don't let Father catch you calling the ladies that, Donald. You keep it up and you're going to get yourself in trouble with one of those birds. Then you'll be in for it.
A nearby plop catches the boy's attention. A tiny head appears in the water next to the submerged portion of the dock. One tiny webbed, clawed foot, then another grabs onto the edge of the wooden plank as a small turtle is revealed, struggling to heave its way out of the water. The boys quietly watch as it slowly makes its way about halfway up when a duck swoops in nearby. Plop, back into the water goes the turtle.
Little chap should stay in the water, safer there.
Reggie silently gets a long, sturdy branch. Standing at a distance, he dips the tip into the water where the turtle dropped. In a moment, the tiny head reemerges from the depths, followed again by one, then 2 tiny clawed feet. This time it was able to use the end This time it was able to use the end of the branch as a step to get onto the dock and into the sun.
Turtles need the sun to live.
Reggie slips the branch out of the water and sets it aside, all the while watching the turtle as it settles itself against the warmth of the wooden dock.
They have to find places like this where they can get out, bask a little, even if it means being eaten by predators.
Donald squats, peering at the tiny creature.
He's so tiny. Maybe we should watch over him until he's ready to get back in.
He looks up at the sky as he says this.
It's not our job to watch over him forever, little brother. He just needed a little help getting out is all. God gave him a shell and instincts, and the rest is up to him.
And you learned all this by spending 9 months with this monk.
No, but you know what I did learn. But you know what I did learn?
What?
I'm still faster than you.
He dives into the lake and begins swimming with strong strokes towards the island.
Unfair.
He lunges after, frantically trying to catch up with Reggie. Exterior, underwater, Lake Inya, afternoon. Underwater, Donald swims frantically, intent on winning. The only sounds heard are the splashing of his strokes and bubbles released from his lungs and through his nostrils and lips. Exterior, at the island in Lake Inya, afternoon. Finally reaching the island, Donald pulls himself out onto the grassy brink, breathing hard, wiping hair and water out of his face. He turns around and flops down on a rock, breathing hard. Glancing around, he whoops with elation when he realizes that Reggie has not yet made it to the bank. A moment passes before he notices the silence. He looks near the island shore. Nobody is around. He looks back towards the house and sees Mathilda across the way, waving her arms at him, screaming something he cannot understand. Slowly, he stands up and scans the lake. All is peaceful. There is no sign of Reggie or anyone else swimming in the placid waters. The camera moves behind him, casting him in a silhouette as he continues to stare out on the lake, searching in vain for his brother. In the distance, people come running from the house to join Mathilda, who has fallen onto her knees on the banks of Lake Inya.
Okay, and I think we're going to stop there, although it's just starting to get really exciting. All right, good job, you guys. Thank you all so much. Thank you. All right, so let's talk a little bit to, like, Jazmen and I are now going to create a reading room, a writer's room for Yamen. Let's talk about this. Jazmen, you want to start? Like, is there something that stuck out? So normally when I give feedback, I like to start with the positives, right? And I don't know if you do the same thing. I like to note what I really enjoyed before talking about what we could work on.
I thought there was some beautiful imagery, right? I was just like really enjoying the way that you described stuff. I wrote down, you described one of the characters as oozes mischief. Like I thought you like had that down very well.
Right. I've got that too. Yeah. Very descriptive. There was some really pretty, it really did create a visual, a lot of your imagery. And I loved that you.
Oh, sorry. Am I not supposed to talk?
Right. Not yet. And I loved that you, by the time we got to that fourth page, that you had started creating some danger and some intrigue, and question, like, what happened? And you gave us a chance to get to know Reggie before his disappearance. And I don't, now I want to know what happened to him. I hope he made it. So you don't have to tell me right now. So, okay. So this is what I would say, first of all, is reading a script. You want your reader's eyes to be able to run down the page quickly. A fast read is really important. An easy fast read is important because it tells the reader that you know how to handle language and description, and you know how to keep energy and the momentum flowing. When we have to read large chunks of description like this, that slows a read down. I mean, it's beautifully written and it's lush and it's wonderful. And I had an instructor who used to write, save it for your novel. in our screen, in our, like he did the acronym for that, save it for your novel. So I think you really want to look at how you can whittle that down to only the necessity, what's most important in your description and in your action. How do you feel about that, Jazmen?
Yeah, no, I had the same thought. I didn't get to see much of the script, but from what I did see, it just felt like a large, big blocks of text. And unfortunately, that scares readers away sometimes because they're like, oh, I got to read through this. So I would say, yeah, definitely keep to what's necessary. And if you need like this long thing in text, like break it up. You can have like white space is like very important on a script because it makes it feel like not as daunting. Yeah, so I agree. Keep to what's necessary. I thought everything that you had was beautiful, but it did feel very much like a fiction, like something that like a novel that you're reading. So get to what's necessary. I don't think you have to describe like every person's action. Especially, I mean, I work in TV. In TV, it's like he goes for a swim. It's like super, super specific. So definitely keep your imagery and keep some of those very descriptive words, but try to hone down to what you have to have and just take out what doesn't have to be there.
Right. Yeah, what doesn't serve the story. And you have so much, and I know this is really personal, and so that's why when we talked, I suggested it might be, you might have something larger than just a one script. You might have a pilot and a series that you wanted to tell. You might have a novel that you're working on. So you have a lot of story and a lot of material. I thought I love the descriptions, but I want you to really pay attention to the places where you're describing things that we can't necessarily see. And unfortunately, I didn't. It's where you started giving some background on the people, and you said, the boys are the two older sons of an educated upper middle class family living in Rangoon, British colonized Burma in the 1940s. So that's like a lot of information that one is either going to come out through as the story progresses, and we're going to get that information. And so I'd like to say this. Okay. A reader's brain and our brains can only process so much information. And if you ask us to think about, okay, now we have to think about, these are the two sons of this older man. And we're going, oh, wait a minute, who's the older man? And it's 1940s. I have to think about all of this and process it. That's why a very concise and simple writing keeps our mind from getting hung up on a lot of unnecessary information. And that's why we can follow the story. But when you ask us to start thinking about, and then he turned to the left, I say never tell somebody they're turning to the left or the right. It doesn't matter. They just turn. Because our brain then goes, wait a minute, which way is right? So leave out the stuff that has to make us think about information that we're going to glean as you tell the story anyway. Because storytelling is all about the process of relaying information, how and when, and the pacing, right? Jazmen, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is just something, I know this is a larger piece, so it's kind of hard because I'm only, hearing 3 pages of it. While going through it, I did want to get to the moment quicker. I did feel like we were taking a long time to get. I was like, I'm like waiting for something to happen. And I think, what you have is great, but I was just like waiting. And unfortunately, maybe this is something you're going to produce your own, maybe you want to sell it or what, but when you have readers in Hollywood, like you kind of have to hook them very quickly, especially in features. So I thought, like, even when I remember you described like something coming up out of the water, it was the turtle. And I was like, oh my God, is that a body? Right? Like, I was waiting for that moment to kind of like, to explain like why I'm watching this. So as soon as you can get to that moment, I think the better. And I think, again, you have a lot of great stuff, but I think you can get there a lot quicker.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I do love the symbolism of the turtle. Because I'm pretty sure that this is thematically what this little turtle kind of represents what's going to happen to your family. So I like that. I think you spent a little too much time on it. And I think we could get through that faster, conveying that kind of information. I love it. One, because I love turtles. And I lived in North Carolina at Wilmington Beach, and turtles come up there and, bury their eggs and wait. And we would go out there and watch the hatching and then follow the turtles out to the ocean. So I just see that little turtle and I love those little turtles. But yeah, I think you can get through that faster. Also think about how you can deliver information through action. So like as they're going to go for the swim, I love it. And I'm just wondering if they're not already partly in the water. Like I used to swim in a river, and I'd be swimming and come up, and I came face to face with a snake one day, and it scared the hell out of me. But like, why not? They jump in and they come like face to face with the turtle, or that turtle just like lands on their. And I think you can create and introduce information even through action, and that keeps us even more involved. We're like, oh, fun. Okay. Oh my goodness,
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Jazmen?
No, sorry. No, I agree. I guess I was just wondering, because you described it as, I'm sorry, am I not allowed to ask questions?
Ask. No, you can. Absolutely.
So when you were describing the story, I was like, oh my God, that sounds like an amazing story. I guess I was just wondering what this section kind of, like, where does this go? Like, how does this, go back to the larger narrative that you're writing?
And Yaman, I'm gonna let you answer that in just a minute, because that's a really good point. And I think we discussed it. Like, she's got this huge story, and what she told us was this little tiny idea of it. And I think that right now she's doing more setup to get to that inciting incident where he picks up the those like what a
the refugees.
The refugees. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it might be like, I think Jazmen's on to this idea that maybe even introducing that earlier, getting to the inciting incident sooner, we can learn about family, along the way. But I think she wants to build up what that world is like so that we know what they lost. I don't know. Yaman, you can speak now.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's true. My family, my parents were from well-to-do, as in, in Burma. They were in a good position in Burma when he made this decision, and it was a big one. My mom, I talked to her about it today, and she told me, she was really upset when she found out that he had saved these refugees. There were 100 of them, and they were drowning in a fishing boat, right? And he made that decision, and I do think that a big part of it was his experience having lost his brother to that lake when he was younger. I think that really it impacted him. He's kind of I don't want to say he was spoiled, but he was definitely a kid that didn't really have too many hardships, and knowing that this was going to change the trajectory of our whole family. I was just one when that happened, and so 3 small children. He's got a wife at home. Who knows what's going to happen? And he just made that decision to do it, and it was very brave of him to do. And it turned out to be a massive sacrifice for him and my mom. But for the 3 of us girls, like, we all turned out good. Like, we would not have come to the United States. We'd still be in Burma right now with all the things that are happening there. And so, yeah, no, I want to write that story. It is over a large span of time. I don't know how it's going to happen in just, 110 pages. But yeah, once I whittle it down, it'll maybe work. But it's my first script. I've never written like this before. So
I'm really proud of you, Yaman, and really impressed. You're doing an amazing job. Don't let our feedback. It's great. You're doing great.
Yeah, I feel weird in my writers groups. We would always read the full thing, even if we read a part of it in the group. We would have to have the whole thing read just so we have the context. that's where I was coming from, just wanting to kind of understand the full story. Definitely keep going. And I feel weird giving notes considering that you haven't finished yet, because that's always a hard thing. But once you do get to a place, I understand you're saying that this kind of sets up who this character is, and this situation of what happened to him affects this decision that he makes. But I think you can kind of play around with this moment. I'm thinking of Ordinary People. I don't know if you guys seen it, but it's kind of the main character is traumatized by this incident with losing his brother on a boat, kind of similar to yours. But it takes the whole movie to kind of understand exactly what happened. So just know that you can kind of play around with that, because while you were talking, I was just thinking, like, imagining in my head, like, him seeing the bodies, like him seeing these refugees and like wanting to save them. And I think that's such a great image. And I don't know, like in my mind, I see a version where it kind of starts out with that, right? Because like you said, this is a large time span. It seems like it's more so what happens after that incident. So you don't want to spend so much time leading up to it, because that's really like what happens after is really where your story is at. So that's just where I was just kind of asking questions, trying to get a grasp of the full story.
Yeah, I considered doing that, starting with when he first comes across the refugees. I'm just nervous about kind of messing around with the time. I'm new at this, and so I thought going linear would be the more simple way to go. Because that's the other option, right? Is start at the time of the refugees, which is the kind of the triggering point, and then move forward and sometimes go back in time a little bit. I was nervous to do that. I don't know if I have the skills right now to do that kind of a thing. That I can try,
Well, I mean, don't do it just because I said it. I'm just saying, definitely continue on what you're doing right now and finish, because that's the most important thing. But, writing is rewriting. And so I was just saying, once you get a chance to kind of look at everything, just know that you have that option there to kind of move things around.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the feedback is good, because that will help her as she moves forward with the writing, just the technical aspect of it. I think it's going to make the write go faster for you. And but I happen to agree with Jazmen. I think that's where the story starts, and I think you don't need to worry about a lot of this backstory, because we're going to learn information anyway. We're going to see when he goes home that he lives in this beautiful house and that there's wealth. And so we're going to know what you guys lose. Okay. And we will learn through probably a dialogue or two about his lost brother. And that's all we really need to know. We don't need to see the whole thing. Although if you feel like while you're writing it, you want to write it and then play around with the structure, that's great too. I mean, that's like, again, like Jazmen said, just write it. That's the hardest part.
It's the hardest part. It's so hard.
It is.
But yeah, no, this is really good feedback. Thank you. I really.
All right. You're welcome. And you're so brave to go to do this on like this first time we're doing this live stream writers group thing. So who knows who was watching out there. And, but I know that everybody appreciated it. And Yaman, you're very brave. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And not only that, it was like I said, your imagery was like really beautiful. So you're definitely like on your way. So take it in stride.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I am going to wrap it up then. Jazmen, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I hope that you'll come back and hang out and talk to us some more, because there's so much more that, we want to hear and know about. And I love hearing the stories. So I hope that you will grace us with your presence again in the future.
Yeah, no, this was fun. And it was nice, meeting all you guys. I wish I could have met more of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me and giving me a way to get out of my apartment, even if it was virtually. So,
well, it was a joy. All right. Are you guys, so I have a question real quick. For the WGA stuff, are you guys still doing meetings, but like Zoom? Are your committees meeting?
I have not been to them, but there are committees that are meeting via Zoom. There's a lot of stuff that is still going on. Okay. It's just virtually now. It just looks different. No one's quite sure how things are going to change when we go back to normal. the case can be made that people are saving a lot of money by doing, and a lot of time by doing these virtual meetings. So everything's kind of up in the air. So.
Right. So let me ask you, I heard that Los Angeles is moving from a purple down to like a red or an orange, which means that it's going to open up a little bit down there. What's the first place, the first thing that you want to do, or the first restaurant you're like dying to get back into? What do you want to do?
The gym. The gym is the first. I've been like checking the website, like trying to figure out exactly when they reopen. Just because I need my physical activity. It keeps me sane. And I'm just tired of running around the block and doing my little YouTube workouts. I gotta get into a gym somewhere. But yeah, it's actually happening Monday from what I hear. AMC is opening up the movie theaters on Monday. So I'm not sure how it's going to go, how people are just going to rush out, or I'm sure it's going to take some time before everyone, slowly feels comfortable to go back out there. But we've been locked down for a while, so I'm excited. So
kind of like they just passed the year mark of when this all started. So, and I don't even want to talk about COVID. And I'm sorry I even said that, but I don't know it. So yes, it's been a long time. Oh my gosh. Well, we're getting people are saying thank you so much and thank you for being here. They had a great time, and have a great rest of your weekend. And I'll talk to you.
All right. Thank you, Dawn. See you guys later.
All right, Jazmen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So I guess that's it for today. We'll do another meeting. Folks, I just want to let people know that we are trying to figure out how we do these virtual meetings, because we used to meet in person, read pages, and then do feedback. So it's kind of different doing it this way. And I think we're going to be changing our time. So instead of meeting on Saturdays, I think we're going to start a one weekday evening, so that since the weather is getting good and we're going to be released from lockup, I think folks are going to want to start getting out and enjoying their weekends and doing stuff outdoors. At least I know I want to. So just keep your eyes open for our new meeting times. We'll have that out soon enough. And if you're interested in joining us, just make sure you RSVP, and you would have to reach out to me so that I know you have material that you want to be read. And I think that's it. So thank you all for joining. I hope you had a great time. Jazmen's amazing. I know we'll have him back again. And I say, right on. Good luck out there. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm out of here.